From Holiday Taxi, CEO Peter Hill. From Split Cabs, founder David Machado. From Cab Force, the Chief Product Officer, Tommy Holgram. And from Blacklane, their CEO, Jens Wolf. Gentlemen. That's all right. You can applaud. These guys are in the toughest space there is right now in the travel industry. All right, so guys, let me start it off. In 30 seconds or less, how does your company propose to stand out in this market? Because it's blowing up. Raymond, we'll start with you.
Right, one, service. So service is both the supply that you have, plus also the customer service that you can give. If we do things on a real on-demand space, you're going to be on it. Probably second is where we stand is we do both B2C, B2B. Geography is an important one. We are Russia, Israel, UK, strong position, New York. Obviously other providers are in different markets. And probably lastly, you've got to stay capitalized. So we raised 200 million so far, and we've got to keep raising and keep pushing.
Follow the money. All right, Peter, how do you differentiate?
Well, he stole some thunder.
That's okay. I'm going to say you need capital too, right?
We're primarily a B2B partnerships business.
Okay.
So we work closely with our partnership, and we work to help them monetize transfers, taxes or buses. And service is key to that. So service quality. So we've been around for a long time in this area. We've been trading now for 13 years in ground transportation, for virtual business, and we've moved millions and millions of people, so we've got longevity, credibility. And that comes with service and long-term relationships.
Okay, David.
Splitcab's a consumer-facing app. It offers a unique service in London, which is shared mini-cab transfers. The other thing that we're doing that I think differentiates us a lot is we're working with the taxi companies. My family run 4 taxi brands, work closely with Pete, in fact. That's where, so we're coming from a slightly different angle, like we're mobilising the industry, giving them infrastructure to compete in this day and age.
Tommy?
Well, at Cab Force we decided earlier not to work on the B2C space, so we decided to work with partners, airlines, TMCs, mainly TMCs at the beginning, and it really made us to be really careful with the supply sourcing. All the duty of care requirements need to be fully handled properly. Great customer service. And now combining that with CarTroller, so we were acquired 2 weeks ago by CarTroller.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So combining forces with CarTroller, they have great technology, they have great data science, they have great airline partnerships, I think 80 of them. That's really unique in the market.
Now, before I get to Jens, was that a planned strategy of yours to exit at some point? So
at some point, yes, but it was probably earlier than I was expecting.
Okay, all right. Jens, how about yourself?
Blacklane provides professional driver services on a global basis. We are present in 50 countries, 200 cities, serving over 300 airports. We are playing the quality game, being very close to the supply, contracting tens of thousands of local operators. And we are pre-bookable. We are fixed all-inclusive prices. Every booking is guaranteed at Blacklane. So we are now filling up the first and the last mile of the typical travel chain.
Okay, well I'm going to stick with you because I have a question about, because all of you mentioned service was a component, need to deliver good service. You're relying on independent operators, many of you, or other service providers. You're actually enabling something to happen, but you're not actually managing the service. So how do you manage that? Right? You know, I worked in the ground transportation industry for a couple of years. I actually had hair before I started because it's very hard to get all these independent guys to do the right thing all the time. So tell us how you manage that.
That's one of the biggest challenges we face, and it highly depends on technology. Making sure that we are very close to the infrastructure, that we have the technology on site, we have the technologies in the car, we know what our drivers are doing, where the car is, making sure that nothing will happen on the pickup. Even if 15 minutes before a pickup a driver has a flat tire, we will recognize and we will send another car.
So it's using your technology to make sure, now the service provider. How about the guy that's an unfriendly guy? I mean, that's also part of the challenge, right? You've got a global network, you've got literally probably tens of thousands of drivers every day. All of you, you're in that same boat.
Yeah.
How do you keep your service level?
Technology. We worked a long time with a lot of our suppliers, and it's that longevity of the relationship. It's building relationships. We don't plug in hundreds of suppliers. That's not how we work. We want to provide volume to suppliers. If we provide them volume, then we build a good relationship, they trust us, we trust them, that's how we get good supply.
Probably two things. One, we actually have thousands of suppliers because we have black caps, which notoriously are extremely difficult to handle this. But probably similar to Jens, it's the technology, it's that real-time piece. That we have 24/7 customer care, and we literally, like, every pre-book is monitored. As soon as it's B2B, it's a different service standard. But then in order to deal with those nastiness that happens, is like, it's again, it's technology. People can actually call the call center straight away from the cab, both ways, drivers and passengers, because things happen. And when you're actually really close to it, 99% is fine. There's 1% that you've got to be able to react.
I'm going to, David, anything to add?
Yeah, well, the comment made is key. It's a percentage ratio. We operate off 0.5% or less is acceptable, and anything under that, and drivers can't work.
All right, so I'm going to push you guys all on that theory a little bit. So if you have demand for a ride, and you know that your driver is not one of the guys that hits the 95%, do you give that ride out?
No.
You don't. So you reject the ride.
Yeah, but there's 50,000 plus drivers in London, so it's a very big pool. And generally, drivers, if they get locked out of the system or if they're suspended for an amount of time, they would then come back and toe the line and offer the customer service that you need.
Okay, so one of the things I think is brilliant about Uber, and I'm going to talk about Uber in a little sec because it's kind of the big elephant in the room, but one of the things I think they do is brilliant, is that the customer rates the driver immediately.
Yeah.
Are you guys doing that today?
We rate the companies. We work with taxi companies, not the individual drivers.
But does the individual, so does the consumer rate the driver?
Yeah.
Yeah.
In our case,
The
yes.
right.
In your case, yes. So immediately out the car, send them that survey, how is the driver?
They can rate the driver,
Yeah.
and this is how we steer, right? So that we don't have the 95% guys in our network.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting is, so also here, of course, they can rate the driver and then they get a call if something's happened and so on. Interestingly though, is that actually our drivers, they don't rate the passengers.
They do not rate the passengers.
They do not, and I find that a very kind of awkward situation. If you have a professional driver, why would the driver rate the passenger? Obviously that does happen on Uber.
Yeah.
We've done the same.
So you're not
actually-
empowering the other
we
way.
had the functionality, but then it was taken out. Didn't think it was more of an ethical thing, really.
If it's a professional driver, I think it's slightly different. I think the concept makes sense in a sharing economy spirit of like Airbnb, like individual to individual, but if it's a professional licensed driver, which by the way, everybody here is, plus also the big competitor there, I don't see the relevance of it, to be honest.
But for us, it's like we are asking our drivers actually to give us feedback on customers as well, not rating them, but as we are in a quality space, want to offer a personalized experience to our customers, we ask for feedback. If you want to sit in front always and not in the back seat as a customer, like we know for the next time if the driver opens the right door, like these kind of nitty-gritty small things add up to a huge value for using Blacklane.
Okay, so now a lot of you share part of the driver community, let's say. So what's the most important thing? Is it more important to build demand, or is it more important to build supply?
Demand.
Demand. So all demand, really.
Yeah. With
So
demand, you get bandwidth from the suppliers, and you get their attention.
Right, so it's a chicken or egg thing. If you got the demand, you get the supply, right? But you need volume.
I
So
would say supply.
I've also
all right,
said
so this
supply.
is great. I love this. All right, so how many
These guys are
demand?
my suppliers, so.
Yeah, because I come from two angles. We've got to see that we're also a supplier. Like I run a lot.
Right.
We run a lot of companies, and the model we're using, all the companies already have business, so we're just harnessing an infrastructure that's currently working. Once we've got enough vehicles, then we can start to push for the demand. And it's a matter of building a cooperative that are going to work together.
So you're definitely supplying. And Jens, I think you're supply as well, no?
Supply is so product, right? We have a digital part of our product experience. We have a terrestrial part of our product experience. You have to get your product right. If you're playing in our zone, and if you have it perfectly right, then the demand is automatically kicking in. This is what Uber has shown everyone, right?
But Uber wouldn't have the supply without the demand. It only has so many drivers because it has so much demand.
Yes and no. Yes and no. They actually pay for supply, right? So they can actually pay for supply. Drivers could be sitting empty just so that when you open up that app, you see 10 cars. That impresses you know, the demand side, because they always say, I'll always get a car. So it's a chicken or egg, and you know, the supply part I think is very important, because you'll end up fighting for supply, no?
Supply is everything, because you've got to deliver to the customer.
Yeah.
We have some major partnerships with some global brands that have been on stage today. We've got to supply. We've got to deliver every time. They've got to get to that flight. If they don't get to that flight, their holidays ruined, their trips
Remember,
ruined.
demand or supply?
Supply. I mean, we just opened 7 more cities in the UK, and let's just keep doing that. You always start with supply. You've got to have that basic functionality, especially if you do B2C. Then you do B2C, you start building it up. You can have a certain period where maybe there's no cars, but then once you want to do B2B, hey, if you don't have supply, you don't have a customer.
But still, kind of disagree, because with the demand, you can actually build much higher quality. You can get the real relationship with the suppliers, with the chosen high quality suppliers. So without the demand, it's just like kind of hypothetical discussion with the suppliers.
We work on a pre-book model, yeah? And what's volume and the demand, the volume that comes with demand, delivers is lower prices. That's why we work with fewer suppliers, yeah? Because we can deliver volume, we can drive down the costs with them, we can give better support.
All right, let's talk about
Tony, can I interject with a quick question from the floor, since some of you brought up Uber? You know, in this space, Uber really has dominated the conversation. I'd just like to get a reaction. Is this good for all of you, or is this irritating?
I think it's really good. It's good. What
Really
Uber's done for my business is it's made airlines and OTAs realise that they can monetize transfers. We've been banging on doors of airlines for 10 years and they've not been listening. Uber comes along, all of a sudden, oh, we can make money on transfers. But they want the service that goes with it. They want licensed drivers. They want suppliers they can trust. And we provide all that to them.
And they don't want their brand to leak, or their users to leak the Uber's brand, so they want to enforce their own brand.
So Uber's worked the world with transfers.
It's definitely awareness, you know, that Uber has raised for all of us, so that is good, I guess, for us. It also has another component that Uber is actually, it's another addition to the mobility space. Every one of us is playing in the mobility. You have ride-hailing, you have professional car services, you have car sharing. You have all those options evolving and emerging in the marketplace. And that leads to one interesting trend that people, especially in urban areas, stop owning their own cars. Yeah, and this budget is of course then spent in mobility services. So every new entry in our domain, every new great concept is highly embraced by us, since it's growing the entire pie. This is something that also a taxi driver will realize one day.
In the London market, they've defined the service. They've done something that the PCO and the licensing authorities have been trying to do, which is new vehicles, smart drivers, you know, have a standard for years. Uber came in and you've got a vehicle under 3 years old. It's there within 5 minutes. The drivers are smart, the vehicles are spotless. The licensing authorities couldn't do that, and Uber have managed to just put it in that's what everybody expects now. And all the cab companies are having to raise the standards to, you can't have, you know, 8-year-old vehicle.
So they've been a forcing factor for good.
I would say so.
And you don't feel threatened by the fact that they're going to raise another $2 billion and have $2 billion to go out and do things with, buy supply.
You gotta look at it on a global scale. I mean, they have raised so far a very large chunk, what, 4.5 billion or something. But if you take all of the large competitors combined that sit in China, India, South America, there's actually more money raised by local, truly local competitors who understand this piece. And transportation is a truly local, like taxis, local taxis. I think the airport transfer is probably more of a global piece, but actually what's happening, which taxi you're using is extremely local. And then so in India, you've got to understand that market extremely well. And yes, they raised a ton of money, but they will need a ton of money to compete in those very large markets.
Well, you guys are here at a travel conference, and you're fulfilling the last mile in many cases. All right. So when we get down into when that gets booked and how that gets booked, Peter, you said something very interesting. You pre-book.
Yes.
So I'm assuming that well, I'd like to hear from all of you what the primary booking mechanism is, because I want to understand the Uber effect. They're sitting on someone's device, and is that a competitive advantage? When you think about the way people start to do things, or now doing things, not starting to.
You're saying they're mobile.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
mobile.
well, we're mobile. Yeah, we're PC. We're on all devices. We're just the same. We pre-book. We're going to be offering a on-demand product later this year, but all our business at the moment is pre-book, and what that gives is a traveller the reassurance that when they land, somebody's going to be there to pick them up and take them to their destination.
All right, so the assurance of
It
knowing
is
it's going to
assurance.
be there, it's pre-booked,
Yeah, it's great product, it's quality service, and it's a good price.
And do you think
what we give.
and so does everybody agree? I mean, does everybody take a pre-book, and do you consider that a competitive advantage then?
Yeah, we
It's not a competitive advantage. Like in our mind, those models are all merging at some point, right? We are getting down and down and down in our pre-booking time. We are currently at 1 hour booking in advance on a global scale. In the larger cities, we have the liquidity to also could change it to an on-demand setting. The thing is, our philosophy is that you do not want to book anything, right? And you don't even, typically you shouldn't even have the need to push a button in an app because mobility is a service, right? You're not traveling for the sake of traveling because you want to reach a destination at some point, yeah? So the idea is actually that we take all the stress, all of us and also the airlines are taking the stress out of travel, taking it out of your mind as a traveler. You just can concentrate on the reason why you are actually traveling somewhere.
We've got to focus on the customer, yeah? Most customers are not the same as us. We travel constantly. We work in travel. We all travel. Business people travel a lot. A lot of leisure travellers travel once a year. Right. They want to be looked after. So we want to look after them so they have a good experience, and also for our partners.
So
we cannot ruin that experience.
Okay, so did the experience get different based on the use case? Because I would argue that the app is really where you want to be. You want to be at the end of that person's
I would actually, with our case, I disagree on that.
Disagree, okay.
Yeah, we're looking at the data, the average pre-booking window is 9.4 days for us. So 9.4 days before the taxi pickup.
But let me ask you this, was it more than 9 days a year ago?
It's been roughly the same for us. So it's because we are in DMC channels, self-booking tools, when the trip is actually planned, we are there in the same place.
But it depends what you're looking at. I mean, if you're looking at airport, yes, pre-book. I mean, we do pre-book as well. But when you actually look at what's happening, the lawyers in the city, the consultants in the city, it's like the A to B, point to point. Actually, the app is 80% for the professional users. Right. They still have their assistants. We have like that books for them, but then it actually puts it onto the app and they can still see where the car is, and you take away that whole, where is my car, calling up their assistant, the assistant calls up the taxi company, and then you have that chain back. So in the city, its app is key on those like longer...
Depends on the travel. Depends on the partnership. An OTA, a tour operator, might be 6 months in advance. An airline, it's not moving 2 weeks.
But it's not a different customer, right? It's what you said, it's a different use case. Yeah? So if you want to serve your customer end to end in all possible scenarios, you have to play in all those worlds.
Got to play in all those worlds. Gentlemen, we're going to close it out down there. Thank you all for coming out here. Interesting. Good luck to all of you. Very tough space.
Thank you.